Hey, what's going on, everybody? I am your boy, Retro Bliss, and you are on the Retro Bliss Rewind podcast. Welcome to the show. For those of you who are watching over at Mike's Gaming Gala, we obviously are simulcasting over there. Mike's a regular panelist here, and my thing just told me there's a problem with the stream, but I don't know. Long and short of it is that's okay. I think it's I don't think it's the, hold on a minute. Doggone it, my stupid computer. Anyway, sorry about that, guys. I'm just going to bring everybody on first. Mike from Mike's Gaming Gala, and Brian from BD Retro Mods, and then the reason why we have the show tonight is we have Justin Cheer on. He is a graphics guy for the Intellivision.
Hey,
so welcome, Justin. How are you doing?
Good. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
I'm very anxious to hear about what's going on, but I'll be honest, I'm probably going to be more of a listener and just kind of soak it all in here. Mike's kind of our resident Intellivision expert, and I think you guys are friends. That's how we got you on the show, is through Mike.
We've actually worked on a game together.
Yeah.
Oh, man. See?
I will say that thing that was throwing you off at the start, it's apparently not streaming to Facebook, but YouTube, you're good.
Yeah. I'm not worried about Facebook. Yeah.
So, why don't I give a little introduction to some of the games that Justin's worked on. Justin does codes graphics for the Intellivision, for the homebrew community, and he's done some of the best ones. Big highlights are obviously the Pandora incident, which is one of my favorite games on the Intellivision. Operation Cloudfire, which was another fantastic, moody, like games that really need big atmosphere. Napoleonic Wars, he did the cinematics for Robot Army. Infiltrator, that one had fantastic graphics. He's done Goof Enough, Pyramid Warp, Norseman 2, the title screens for those, and for Heli. As well as almost all the graphics for the upcoming Police to Avenue Redux, which I streamed on Intellivision Day. That is an impressive, we were talking in the green room, that is an impressive list of games. Those are some of the best looking Intellivision homebrews out there. I think the only person who really competes at all would be Oscar Kenneth with the Kai Magazine games. But what made you kind of want to? Well, I mean, so there's two parts of it. Like, I'm a graphic artist. I make my living making motion graphics and visual effects for television, film, and live events. I have tried making pixel graphics in the past for different things. That is a whole different world of art style, and it's working within those restrictions that really makes it difficult. What made you kind of get into that in the first place?
Mostly just because I always loved video games. And my first system was Intellivision. And I also loved trying to figure out how things worked. So I really paid attention to games. When the first console, I guess 8-bit generation console magazines started coming out, my friends and I were really hardcore into that and started learning the specs and trying to figure out how that works. And I just remember growing up and trying to figure out like how does an NES do parallax, and why is there seemingly usually like a strip going across and things like that. And so once I got online in the late 90s, I was on a lot of different video game communities, forums and stuff, and really had the opportunity to learn from a lot of programmers, had made friends with a lot of them, and figuring out just how these systems actually work. And starting in the late 90s, I wrote a lot of walkthroughs and guides for Japanese games. And I wound up doing quite a bit of ASCII art for it. First, it was just spreadsheets and then titles, and then pretty soon I was doing maps and cinematic shots and using text to draw out sprites and things. And at one point I started working with various programmers on like I guess demos and things, or just proofs of concept for TurboGrafx 16 PC Engine games the most, and eventually got to work on 2 games that got published, and another one that was basically complete but never did get published. And that last game was one where I really got to basically, like, it was like a dream come true, because like when you're growing up and you think like, wouldn't it be great to make games because you love, say Intellivision games. Then when you're an adult, not only is Intellivision passed you by, now it's like 3D graphics and everything, and pixel art's already gone, so that's what's so great about homebrew, is being able to actually do a dream that you never really could grow up and do, and my best friend and I were really into animation and cartoons and stuff like that, so we wound up going to film school for that. And the biggest thing that they taught us there was how crappy of a job it was. And
yeah, I remember being interested in classical animation in the late 90s, and I almost ended up going to school. I went to this thing that Disney did, an event that Disney did.
Yeah.
I actually grew up not far from you in Coquitlam, so it was in the Vancouver area, and it was really cool. And then I ended up taking a course from a guy who animated the Beetlejuice cartoon. I don't know if you remember that.
Oh yeah.
And he was like, if you like drawing, don't go into animation.
Yeah. Yeah, I went to Vancouver Film School, and halfway through our course, the local Disney studio poached our principal to be a director over there. And at the end, I had an opportunity to work there, but they told us how they literally have like guards roaming the aisles of the animation desk, making sure you're always working. And the biggest thing, though, is that they make you sign a contract where they own all of your ideas. And they said that what reason they do that is that decades later you get you get any kind of success. Yeah, and they will basically just try and take control of it from you. So that was like a no-go. Yeah,
there's like one guy on top that gets to actually design stuff and make characters and stuff, and everybody else just has to do the same thing over and over and over.
Yeah, but still, just the idea that you're always going to be looking over your shoulder the rest of your life, that wasn't really appealing. So I never did that professionally, but it has helped out a lot with doing pixel art and animation for games.
And it's interesting because in some ways, though, like that situation you just explained is very, very similar, I think, with how video games are today, right? I mean,
absolutely.
At least for the mainstream gaming, like obviously the little homebrew indie devs, it's a whole different concept. But again, like, I think in the early 2000s stuff, I was like, I want to be a video game designer, and I want to go work for Activision, or I want to go work for Blizzard, or
Ubisoft, or whatever. It's like, no, you don't.
And
no,
then
you
all of a sudden you started to hear the stories that come out of that, and I think because of that, that's also kind of why I think you have the blooming of like the indie scene now, like a lot more smaller publishers instead of all these big folks, because they just
if you want to do something you actually care about.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. And that's actually, homebrew games, that is part of the indie scene. They're indie games for Intellivision or the Atari 2600 or whatever system that you're doing it for. They're little indie games. Because as you were clarifying in the green room, you are not a programmer. You make graphics for these games. These games do have teams. They're small teams.
Yeah.
But I know, for instance, like Carlos Madruga, who programmed a lot of the games that you've done the graphics for, excellent programmer. I've seen his games. Like I played and gave my opinions on Police to Avenue prior to your involvement, and I loved the game. The core of the game is really good. It's a port of a previous game, but then you were brought on board, and now it's definitely a more marketable game. And the atmosphere in it is better than it was. And then somebody else comes in and makes music. Quite often that's Aiden Toledo. But so they are small teams. These are indie games. It's not just a guy in his basement making a game. Sometimes it is, but quite often it isn't. What I wanted to to ask though was, specifically with the Intellivision, you've got a limited palette, you've got a limited amount, limited ways to put up. What are some of the biggest restrictions that you come across when you're making graphics for the Intellivision?
The biggest restriction for visuals, like bar none, is the amount of cards you have. That's like the amount of tiles. A card, they call them cards at Mattel Electronics back in the day, but basically you got 66 8x8 pixel squares that you get to build your sprites and your backgrounds out of. And if you used all of them just on a background, it only takes up 1/4 of the screen. And there's certain things that people are doing now to get around that a bit, like streaming sprite frames. Like, say, at least a player sprite might use, say, if it's 3 colors, like, say, 6 cards, and then you only ever have that 6 cards out of the budget. But it's everything, like, if it was just the colors that you could do and the resolution, it's very easy to do, like, what would look like, if not photorealistic, but just like paintings. Like even intelligent colors, you could do things that would look like a 16-bit game if you had enough cards. So that is the biggest thing. And there's a lot of workarounds with sprites, but we don't really have that many games where it's like an Atari 2600 where people are multiplexing as much as possible. Or even like a Coleco game, but that's how especially the cinematic stuff in general. The biggest improvements I've been able to do is figuring out how to essentially in between cards, kind of like in between animation frames. And so if I do a quick pass through of a scene, even if it's like a background for a scrolling game, I just go and I eyeball like every single card, looking at the negative and positive space. Like if something I drew was kind of like a cheek, but on the side of it is like a black background, I look at what the shape of the black is and the shape of the orange are, and look at as many other things I can find where it's close enough to that. And I'll try and copy and paste one card to replace another. And if it doesn't work, then I will try and in between those two and make a card that would replace both. And doing that, like sometimes when I'll do like, say, a cinematic scene, it'll be, say, if you're only allowed up to 64 cards, it'll be like 35 cards over the limit, which, when I was starting out seemed impossible to overcome. But now that's kind of a normal thing to be able to just reduce it all the way down, getting creative. Like on Napoleonic Wars, when I did that portrait of Napoleon, at first it was just the head. And I went back and looked, and I built essentially his collar and shoulders almost entirely out of pieces of his head. I only think I had 3 unique cards I had to use for that, and I just was able to sort of streamline the head a bit, but most of it was just looking at the shapes I could build out of.
Okay. So while you're talking, I didn't bring up Napoleonic Wars, but I do have. Why don't we watch the opening here, and you can kind of talk to, because this is the upcoming Polista Avenue Redux. Actually, we just kind of signed off on our release candidate, but here's some of these graphics that you're making for. Yeah,
almost all these scenes are based on real photos that I researched very hard to find from the 80s.
Is that a photo of Mike?
Looks incredible.
Obviously, the creatures are original, and a lot of those were based on the ideas from the original game.
But like specifically with the restrictions of like pixels and colors and stuff like that, I'm really impressed with how atmospheric you're able to make these. Like when I make a pixel graphic, it's like, okay, there's a head, there's a body, it's really basic.
It's much more difficult to do pixel art for Intellivision than 16-bit pixel art, but it's also way less work. So what you just have to do is stick with it. Like there's a guy who just showed up in the Atari Age Intelligent Programming section and just was there to crap all over Intellivision, said, I tried ColecoVision and it was impossible, and Intellivision's even more impossible. But I mean, it seemed like that to me at first, where I thought, how hard could it be? And then, it was very difficult, but, every game I work on, it's getting easier, and I'm able to do a lot more than I was ever able to.
You have to kind of see things more simplified.
Yeah.
It's not as easy as just like bringing something into Photoshop and applying the poster-eyes.
No,
I
you
have
can't do
tried
that
that
with
as a base.
Intellivision. Somebody asked me once, and it was pretty easy, like after working on so many games, to know that that's not really going to work. I've seen there's an automatic digitization for, I think, the ColecoVision basic equivalent. And even then, if you look at that, it's a bunch of different sort of colored squares with dithering. And it's a great start. Like, you could really make a nice scene after that, but you can't just automate it. Like, all you're doing is, it's kind of like what I do sometimes, where I will paint out like a large, say if it's for a cinematic, like a bust or something, high def, but not really make it like super detailed. Kind of like what people call vector art nowadays, which I just think of as like cell shading. And then I'll shrink it down to different sizes against the background. I like to use a checkerboard background that's translucent in Photoshop. And then I just look at how big it is and how that lines up with each of the squares. And quite often you will use less cards with something a little bigger than a little smaller. It comes to a certain point where it's so constricted, you're not going to be able to have as many cards that'll repeat. And once you get up to a certain size, you're going to have a lot of cards that are only a single color. And that's where you can usually save the most number of cards, and that'll free up a lot more detail.
I have a question.
Yeah.
And it's actually by Copper Mutant. He says,
I was just about to move to those.
Oh, okay, because I thought you missed it.
for sure. Go ahead.
Okay. He loves the Intellivision. He plays Swords and Serpents, but he says it's a bit slow, and he's wondering if the sprite speed is taken into consideration when you're making the graphic.
Like I've really wanted to get more into in-game graphics, and particularly doing really good animated sprites. Unfortunately, I haven't really, in the games where I did some things that I'm really like proud of, are sort of on hold for now. We'll see what ends up happening with that. But I mean, if you just look at games like the Kai Magazine games, even like Infiltrator and Operation Cloudfire, you look at how many sprites that Carlos can stream at once. Like if you look at a player sprite and there are 3 or 4 colors, that's 3 or 4 sprites that are probably using 2 cards, like an 8x16 sprite.
Yeah.
So, and especially what's really impressive about like the Sora of Gadlat Thur is that it outperforms like most Nintendo Entertainment System games like that. If you go back and look at something like Zelda 2, or the similar games, like they don't move that fast. When you get like to the end game and you can run really fast, you can have multi-directional scrolling, and if you like, I remember getting to that point for the first time, running through the desert and just coming across enemies and landing with a blow and just keep on running and jumping and killing all these enemies. Like there's no lag, input lag. The collision's always solid. So you've only got so many you can display, but we already have people who are able to get these games, running just like a good 8-bit game, whether, so the Swords and Serpents, is that the game that he's talking about?
Yeah.
Yes.
That one is kind of infamous for literally being unfinished. But back in the day too, like it's insane what they tried to get these people to do, like as little as 2 months to turn out a game where they had to like use graph paper and sketch out each sprite and card. And from what I understand, I think they like programmed in like what each pixel. Like I don't know if that was my understanding from some of the interviews I've heard.
And that would definitely be a bloated way to do it.
Yeah, and even then with the third parties, they got to work without the exec, but they also weren't allowed to use any kind of proprietary knowledge from when they had worked at Mattel. So I think under the circumstances, we got a lot of really great games, but that one definitely doesn't represent what the system could do.
Got another question here that isn't really related to graphics, but we always like to share information. So it depends on what you mean about there being multiple Intellivision consoles. There is one Intellivision format, like you can, like it plugs into all the, but there are different variations of that console. Because you have the Intellivision 1, the Intellivision 2, the Intellivision 3, the Sears console,
Tandy.
Tandy.
Yeah.
There is a isn't there a
Yep,
Tandy?
Radio Shack made one. Yep.
Yeah, red.
Oh,
yeah,
is
there's
there
a Tandy
version of
Tandyvision.
Okay.
But they all play Intellivision games. So you get any of them, they play Intellivision games. And of course, we've got Luke Boudreau here. He runs Intellivision Collector, who sells Operation Cloudfire, which is one of the games that he made some awesome graphics for. And he says that over at Intellivision Collector, they're always looking forward to working with Justin.
Thank you.
It's high praise.
Yeah.
That is high praise. So I have always said that I consider Electronite to be the gold standard of Intellivision homebrew. Intellivision Collector, especially with their ease of purchase, they're right up there.
Yeah.
There's those two I consider the premium Intellivision homebrew companies.
Yeah. But now the other thing to mention with it too, and again, I think it's all just personal preference, Remy, but like if you're truly out there looking for one, I think the rule of thumb is to try to not do an Intellivision 2, just because of the fact that even though it's detachable controllers, the controllers
aren't as good, but my experience is that the Intellivision 2s tend to work more often and better. Like they seem to be built sturdier, but they're but what doesn't play on it? Like Donkey Kong, right?
The one you don't want to play.
And it's the worst version of Donkey Kong.
It is.
All the homebrews will play on an Intellivision too.
Now, with that said, though, like I don't notice much of a difference because Intellivision 2 is actually the first console I grew up on. So like I didn't know about the original per se. Like I played Burger Time just fine with the Intellivision 2, but I know a lot of people aren't fans of the Intellivision 2 controllers. So
I mean, a lot of people, period, aren't fans of Intellivision controllers. The Intellivision 2 is the less comfortable of them. The side buttons, particular, tend to be really stiff. But you can play all the games fine with it. It's not like you're not going to be able to play.
Right.
And the couple games that the Intellivision 2, original games that the Intellivision 2 is not compatible with, you're not missing much. Anyhow, games like Operation Cloudfire are impressively showing what the Intellivision can do. And I totally agree. And again, though, you are primarily credited with doing cinematic stuff. Yeah. Now, let me find that email that had all the list. Now, with Police to Avenue, you did almost all the graphics, but almost all the graphics are still. There's no animated sprites really moving around in that game. But it says here, Pandora Incident, all graphics. So did you create like the environments that you're walking through and the character sprites?
Carlos had that We Can Experiment thread, and he had tried, I think, 3 times to do a mock-up of a single screen. And he basically at one point said, like, he sort of gave up, that he did one that was pretty good, but it was like using 52 cards. So he thought, it wasn't really...
It'd be impossible.
Yeah, so I just looked into the game because it looked really interesting, and I realized it was one of these games I remember hearing about and looked at videos about, but never actually played because I never really got into C64 emulation, and I only ever got to play it when it was like friends or family had one. And so I just went and looked through screenshots and picked out the hardest, what looked like the most impossible screen to do, and until I got that right. and did like a cinematic shot and maybe a player sprite example or something, and I just showed it to him, and he just decided that we should give it a shot. And in the end, I guess I did pretty much everything for the graphics in game and the cinematics. And there's I think,
and that is a game that it is 100% atmosphere. I tell a lot of people that it's my favorite, or at least among my favorite Intellivision games, period. And that is not because necessarily it is the most fun to play, traditionally fun. I could play Space Invaders all day long, but because it is an experience and everything works together. So you've got the gameplay and you got what you have to do, but you genuinely feel like you are trapped on a space station with things that are trying to kill you, and you have to accomplish these things. And the music works with it as well. Just excellent atmosphere, and graphics are such a major part of that.
That's what I also really love about Police Avenue. It's just, it never gets old. It's just, when I'm playing now, like the what is, I guess, probably the final version, it if I have a hot streak and I wind up in a situation that's like impossible, whether I die or not, like that is so thrilling. Just how you can have a different experience every single time you play.
Yes, and that it actually has a higher replay value than something like Pandora Incident, because it is different every time. And it's funny because I've obviously done game testing on that one, and he encouraged me because I had a couple kind of set strategies that I would kind of try to win. And he's like, try different things. So I went up, like the Demolisher planted a bomb. I picked up the bomb, which you can do. And then I went up the tower and took the hang glider to the witch, and the bomb detonated during my battle with the witch, and I killed the witch.
Well,
I was a suicide bomber.
Did you get a good ending for that?
No, you lose the game. But I sent. Well, it says like the demons were released, but you killed the witch, and I sent a message to Carlos. I was like, that is unfair. The witch did not get all her words out. It should not have released the demons. But that is another one where the music is key, the graphics are key, and I think particularly the cinematic graphics are what is the most important there, because you really have to set the tone, because it's easy to be really campy with these kind of old graphics. And I think we showed obviously the graphics earlier from the intro anyway, and like when I'm walking around and it pops up, it's like you've encountered the wizard or the warlock or whatever. And like, it's a scary picture with a little kind of scary music. And if you got the lights out, you're like, oh crap. Okay. I got it. So excellent job on that one for sure.
Yeah. Remy, the one thing there, I mean, we hope there's going to be maybe an Intellivision Plus, but because I mean, Atari bought them. So you would hope they'd want to try to recoup some of that, but we don't really know what their whole reasonings for.
Yeah, I'm not sure if there's a big enough.
Right.
I'm not sure if there's a big enough market, but it's not outside the realm of possibility.
Right. But I don't know. I don't know that you'd have the homebrew issues. And again, someone that might be more technical than me on this, but I don't think you would have the same issues per se if it's an emulator based console, because I think
yes, you would.
You would okay.
Because it depends. JLP is
I know there's the JLP stuff, but I thought that was more on flash carts and stuff. But so that's the same issue with
the ROMs are programmed for that, for the bank switching on there primarily.
Oh
yeah.
So unless you have their specific bank switching, it won't work.
Now Joe's Bishak has talked with William Moeller, who is trying to talk with Atari. I don't know if he's been successful or not. Basically, there's a way around that, and William would love to share that with Atari.
For a phenomenal fee.
No, let's be completely honest. Like
Right.
the reason somebody like William is more than happy to share this information is because if you get an Intellivision Plus released,
Yeah.
guys like him, guys like Intellivision Collector, Intellivision Revolution, whoever else who release Intellivision games, they're going to sell more because people are now looking for games. Especially somebody like someone like Electronite, who, with the exception of DK Arcade, is releasing original games. Like there's no copyright issue, nothing, just boom. Even Television Collector, like with Operation Cloudfire and The Show Must Go On, these are original games. And they're great games. They are among the best games of the Intellivision period. So there is a vested interest in having somebody create new hardware because this old hardware is not it's not getting any younger.
Oh,
I think
without a doubt. And I was going to say, because I think, now again, and I think William on one of our episodes even said, it wouldn't even necessarily need to be FPGA. Like he felt the emulation was good enough with Intellivision that it really.
You just need an interface for the JLP.
Yep. So we might see it. I mean, we can only hope. But maybe, because I think the last thing we don't want to see, and then we'll get back on topic, is I don't think we want to see, 2600 Junior Plus, because, let's rehash the same thing for a third time. So,
Yes.
But getting back on topic.
Yeah, we're gonna move to a question that Pixie Man Productions had, but Cyrus, thank you so much. We really appreciate your support.
Yep, thank you.
But here's a question for Pixie Man. Have you used IntelliTool, or do you use IntelliTool? Because apparently that is a good way to come up with screens for the Intellivision. I'm completely oblivious to this one.
It's been so many years since I got NT Basic or NT Color going. So I don't remember if IntelliTool is part of that, but basically Carlos Madruga gave me some lines of code. And whenever I want to convert graphics to files that a programmer can use, and it also spits out like a binary and configuration file, I just change the file name in those lines of code, and then I run it through IntelliColor, and it spits out all those files, and it also boots up JZINTV and shows what it looks like. And what's priceless about that is it gives you a card count. It'll tell you how many cards over your. There's a lot of different errors. So they'll say there's too many colors in this tile or that tile, or if the colors are not in spec. And then again, like I can actually program, but when I run that out, it's like I can go and actually put that straight onto my LTO and put it on my Intellivision, look on a TV and see what a scene actually looks like.
Okay, and so does it have the same?
It so much easier than any other pixel art development I've done before, just for that alone.
And does it have the same restriction? Like I have done some really basic work in something like NES Maker, which again has 8x8 tiles, and you can tile them together to make sprites and stuff like that. Does it have the same color restrictions? Like you can have 3 colors in a transparent, or is that not a thing?
Intellivision is so much more restrictive.
Okay.
Most games that are kind of like an NES game, like the type of games that people like arcade ports and most ports, they're going to use the foreground background mode. And in that, there's 16 colors in the Intellivision palette. Half of them are foreground colors and half are background. And you need one foreground color on every card, and every card or background tile can only use 2 colors. And that's why you can't just use the colors you want. Like if you want to do like a rainbow, they have to just basically be lined up with perfect like stripes. You can't do, say, something on an angle because you'll wind up into conflicts with that.
Rainbow's kind of similar to something like this.
Shameless plug.
Shameless plug. This is one of 2. I'll show the other one in a little bit. This is one of 2 logos that Justin actually sent me completely out of the blue. He's like, "Hey, I did your logo," and I've got a very difficult logo. Trust me, I tried to print. I've tried to print it on a shirt because it's got transparency and the little things inside, and all that. But that's, man, I have
So
I have
cool,
worked on a
man.
few
That's so
games,
cool.
and it is my dream one day to help produce a game or publish a game. But also I want to be a part of, what that game is and all that. And I am hoping one day either this or here, let me pull up the other one you sent me.
Takes a minute.
Yeah, because I'm bringing it up
you have to bump the
in JZN
other picture
TV.
off the.
But so here we go, or possibly this one. I'm hoping one day. One day, this is at the start of a game. I think this one is definitely more colorful. But the other one probably has the better mood, so maybe we flicker in between them, and that gives us a semi-transparent feel. I don't know. Probably not. But that is so cool to see that on Intellivision, and I've been like during work today, every once in a while, I just like pop it up and smile. But now that you mention it, I can see.
Is that Mitch's Gaming Galaxy?
Mitch's Gaming Galaxy. But you can see where the lines are. Like this would be a block here, but then the blocks end here, so that you can have these colors by each other, right?
I had more of the shadow lining in there that I had to scale back. And if you look on the G's in the upper left corner, there's a pixel missing because they're on the same card as part of the blue on the M.
Oh, okay.
And then the orange on the orange G would have crossed over onto the yellow G. So that to me seemed like the best compromise. Although I did try at first to have like partial blue shadow, partial orange, but it didn't.
I couldn't even tell it was missing. I honestly couldn't. It just
yeah, no, it gives you that feel for sure. This is going back a little bit, but Mr. Baseman asked how many levels does DK Arcade have? It's all 3 levels from the original game. If you get D2K, it's the original, and then 3 new ones. And if you get D2K Special Edition, it's their 3 new ones from D2K plus another 3 new ones. So, yes, but that's, as soon as you mentioned Rainbow, I was like, that's my opportunity to share that. And Operation Shutdown says he never thought he'd see Mitch's Gaming Galaxy on Intellivision.
Sounds like a great game title.
Mitch's Gaming Galaxy?
Yep.
Yeah, and we can have Grandpa Bliss and Old Poe in it too.
I heard that those guys are trying to collaborate on something. I don't know what they're going to do. They're working on something. All 3 of them old geezers. Anyway, that's okay.
So here's something that I don't think we covered. Why specifically the Intellivision? Like you mentioned that you had had an interest in pixel graphics since the 90s, with various different systems, particularly 16-bit systems. But what specifically drew you to the Intellivision?
I was very disappointed when I grew up and I had access to most consoles and emulation for the rest. And I learned that ColecoVision, it's sort of like just a variant of the base MSX, but also like I had SG-1000 or 3000, whichever that one was, and they're kind of interchangeable. And so like what I really love about classic consoles is like the sum of their limitations and how that manifests in the games is like their artistic voice. And so that kind of diluted what ColecoVision meant to me. But Intellivision, it has an extra low resolution compared to, say, Coleco or the next generation, and only 16 colors, and just how unique those colors are. It, to me, stands out more recognizable than almost anything else. And just the challenge of working around those constrictions that's what's so satisfying with pixel art, even like, say, 16-bit pixel art where you've got hundreds of colors you can use, but on a television, nothing's more satisfying than getting over the hump of just trying to make something work that seems impossible at first.
That's cool.
So I have a question. Can I? I'm sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Phil. Go ahead.
Now, specifically, like I said, I only own 4 of the games that you've been a part of that I know of.
Only.
I shouldn't say only. I mean, just
Come
getting
on.
past the first screen on one is more
come
than I've
on,
ever
Phil.
done.
We know after this show you're gonna buy more. So
I'm
you're
trying
fooling.
to, but I can't. The couch is wearing out. I can't sleep on it any longer.
You've said that for years, and yet somehow it's still surviving.
That's what Mike was saying pre-show. The game that you collaborated with Lewis Helly.
No, this is the Intellivision Heli.
I only did the title screen, and there might be like a second title screen I did hidden in the game.
Wasn't that for the Intellivision?
Yeah,
Isn't
but
Helly for the Intellivision?
Oh, yeah, but that wasn't Lewis Hill, was it?
no, it was Carlos and
Yeah, it was Carlos.
with the graphics for that.
Lewis Hill did ARTI for 7800.
7800. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So I guess what did you work on that the Intellivision version again?
All I did was the title screen that definitely got used. And I did
It's still pretty cool though.
yeah. Thanks.
Still pretty cool. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm done.
Cool.
That was.
Oh, that was it.
But I
Something
guess
else I'd like to clarify is I only did the cinematics for Operation Cloudfire and Infiltrator. Carlos did all the in-game graphics for the most part, other than I think Tix did one sprite on Infiltrator. So that's just 2 really great examples of just how great he is at pixel art as well.
Yes, he is. He is quite
And
talented himself. Yeah, but and especially for like Robot Army, which is basically Berserk.
Yeah.
The first time that I got like playing through story mode, the first time I got, and it was like assembling the Terminator kind of guys. That was awesome. Like
Oscar did that one. That's from before.
Oh well. I'm sorry. That was awesome. Because it was moving as well, and they're like being assembled. But
so kind of go on from Phil's thing with the Atari stuff. You mentioned you're on Atari Age and everything. I mean, do you have any interest or any plans to possibly try to collaborate on some 7800 homebrews or any other consoles outside of Intellivision, or are you just kind of just wanting to stay with just that?
I'd love to work on other systems, but I only have so much free time. I've done some work for an in-development PC Engine game that's basically done at the pace of when it's done. So it'll be years probably before it comes out. But I have talked to somebody about potentially working on a ColecoVision game now that there's sort of the ColecoVision equivalent of NT Basic now.
Okay.
But nothing's planned yet.
I would like to encourage Brian to not piss off the Intellivision homebrew community by encouraging some of its best players to play with other systems.
It's a fair question.
I have a coded question for you that like only you and I will know. But were you involved in a wizard-based game that has been put off indefinitely? Did you do some of the graphics for that one?
That one was out in the open. We had a demo at the Portland Retro Gaming Expo.
Oh, okay, good. That was last year when I couldn't go.
I think I've worked on 20 Intellivision games so far.
Okay.
Nice, Jeremiah.
I know.
Oh, yes. Could you make an Intellivision port of Night Driver that does not give me a headache? It's a question.
Any game can be ported, but it's.
This is a running joke. He is very upset that I gave Night Driver a 4 out of 10 on my mini review.
Dude,
but I would like to remind Jeremiah. That Phil said 3. So get him.
Yeah. I did. I just don't like it.
I have to ask you because we're coming to the last 15 minutes of the show.
Yeah.
Oh.
You just lost it again? No.
Oh, no. Oh. I put that comment up. This is a friendly show.
Oh,
I wasn't
my word.
even.
I guess I'm going to have to start taking over the chat again.
No. I was in the middle of asking a question. That's why I was.
Oh, man. Sorry, guys.
I have to ask you about that artwork behind you. Are you a big Alien fan, or not? Alien fan, or what's going on there?
It's the Japanese cover art of Guardian Legend.
Oh, okay.
I thought I kept staring at that. I'm like, that looks like the Famicom cartridge art there, for that. I'm like, because I'm not gonna lie, that is probably one of my most favorite NES games, and I so wish that particular art would have been on our version.
Yeah, it's not even that sexualized. Like,
no,
it's very realistic body proportions, not showing much of any skin. It's just kind of like, again, like Alien, like Geiger kind of.
Yeah, I looked at that and I instantly thought Alien, which then again reminded me of Pandora Incident. I'm like, oh, is that how he got his inspiration?
Yeah.
I love growing up. My parents rented like every movie, and I got to see almost every movie that came out in theaters, and even when they're restricted. Like, it was a lot different in the 80s. But yeah, I love like all those, like, I don't remember what ages we were, but in elementary school, like doing comic strips and comics, like fanzines of like RoboCop, Aliens, Rambo, Terminator, stuff like that.
We did the same thing. I used to make comics. I made one where I had all these superheroes, and they like went to this island that had like specifically made death traps for all of them, and like this, like the Flash would like run around a corner, but there were all these saw blades waiting for him, and yeah.
That's like how Batman has already devised ways to kill all the members of the Justice League. In case they ever are evil.
No, that is one series I hope someone picks up at some point, though, because that game's so good.
That would be. It's doable. You just have to scale it down a bit. I think like shooter games, you can just pace it out. Like a shooter game is basically like a dodging game. It's like dancing. You're just moving around, you're making your bullet stream, line things up, you're avoiding something else. So you can just change the pace, the number of bullets coming at you, the number of bullets you can shoot, and still have the same kind of satisfying gameplay.
Which is similar to a racing game. You're just dodging the cars, and there's
for
a lot of similarities.
Bosses, since Intellivision has hardware scrolling, you can have a really detailed boss, kind of like Nintendo NES games and Sega Master System games did, where you just move the screen around. So I'm hoping to be able to do some of those kinds of effects in a game coming soon.
Yeah, all I gotta say though is if that game gets remade, it needs save feature, because God, those passwords were absolutely horrible. And I remember as a kid probably wasting 20 minutes, like double, triple checking, because you missed one letter in your writing of that password.
I took Polaroids, but still couldn't make out, because you're using RF back then. You have whatever TV a kid's allowed to play on, and they'd always have like a L and a 1 that looked identical, things like that.
Is it bad that my first instinct when you said Polaroids was that you were that rich kid? You were allowed to touch the camera? What?
That was.
What are you talking about? Our photos were black and white. We had to wait 3 weeks to get them back.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
You had Polaroids in the 1920s, right?
We had moving pictures and everything.
Justin, is there anything that you can share with us that maybe you're working on that other people don't know about yet?
I don't want to talk about some of the games.
This is a part of the interview where I try to get somebody in trouble to get an exclusive.
Yeah. I did some title screens for a few sought-after Nintendo game ports. But, I think last I heard they're on hold, even though 2 of them were pretty far along.
I'm aware of one of them at least.
Yeah,
and I think it's on. Actually, no. I think I'm aware of both of them.
There's another one that I don't think anybody's seen.
Okay, honestly, one of the 2, I think it is really wise to to maybe put a hold on and not publish. The other one, you can probably get away
definitely.
Yeah.
But that one I think is almost done. It's just that's probably why it won't come out, but who knows? We'll see.
Yeah, and Tom Jenkins, I thought the same thing, but it is a Guardian Legend print behind him.
And there's another game that I got to work on where it was a port of a 16-bit generation game, and I was able to do a lot of kind of like Tex Avery, Chuck Jones, Looney Tunes kind of animations with like you can see teeth and tongues and whites of the eyes and pupils and stretching and squashing and all kinds of really cool stuff like that. And that's one that hopefully will get finished one day. But I think we need at least one JLP upgrade. Last I heard about the potential of one upgrade, it still was going to be not necessarily big enough for maybe even the Immortal. So I'm hoping that
I mean the unnamed wizard game.
Yeah. That one again, like, there's a license.
I first learned about that one like 3 years. It's been an idea for a long time. I think even pre-COVID, and then it just sat on the shelf, which is unfortunate. It is incredibly ambitious. I don't know if anybody is familiar with the game The Immortal, but it is an ambitious game for the Intellivision.
The NES version is probably the most impressive NES game.
Oh
yeah. I'm most familiar with the Genesis version. So spill the beans. No, we're not talking about NES titles that could get people in trouble. Remy is lying. He doesn't know about them as well, so you can share. And Jeremiah Thomas says, I swear to God, if he says he's doing Night Driver graphics. Jeremiah, we got to move on.
I would say not in this, not in the but behind the scenes here after this, we're going to have a talk with some of your reviews with paddle games, man. I'm just saying, I saw your tax scan one too.
What is wrong with I gave tax scan a good score?
You gave it a 6 out of 10.
That's a good score.
It's a great game. 6 out of 10.
I didn't say it's great. It's very two-dimensional. Has no game modes.
60 is a failing grade, bro.
I'm giving you crap. You're all good. But
60 is not a failing grade.
It is where I come from.
Here's the thing. Well, then you come from somewhere dumb. If it's over 50%, it's not a fail.
I'm American.
Exactly.
Oh.
Wow, we really went off topic here. Sorry.
You really went off topic, and I'm sorry. Maybe I feel emboldened because we got a Canadian side and an American side. Operation Shutdown says he hopes it includes Mike's voice. No, it doesn't. Nobody's asked me for my voice in a game for a while, and that's all right. You're getting my subscribers mad at me, and I don't appreciate it.
I don't know.
Tax
Some of them are American.
Is worthy. Tax Scan is worthy of a 6. It is a very two-dimensional game. It is good, but it has no game modes. You just move back and forth and shoot, and that is it. And then, and you catch your ships when they come down. Anyhow, Justin, I apologize for the derailment here.
Yeah, he should have warned you about this.
I should have. And Operation Shutdown, you shut your mouth. I am going to start becoming authoritarian.
Oh, he's going to post them.
Blew this up now.
And Mr. Postal, you shut your mouth. I like Sega. Yes, we've heard of the Evercade, and there is, I believe, an Intellivision collection. I don't think there's a Coleco collection on it.
There's not a Coleco, but they made 2 Intellivision collections for the Evercade, and they're definitely worth it. Really, any of the Evercades or games are worth it, just because it's a nice bundle for $20. And I think some of the newer carts now are $25 because they have more memory in them. But still a good price for a collection of games like that. So
I will say just before we wrap up here, unless either of you two have any more questions.
No, I'm just been in awe, you guys. I just
Okay.
because I mean, it's just amazing. It's above some of the stuff was above my head, but I still enjoyed listening to it.
I am going to say, if you want a really good example of how much what Justin does elevates a game, please go back and watch my Napoleonic Wars review, because at the end of that review, and you can skip to it, I show you what it was before Electronite and Justin, or Homebrew Inc. and Justin got a hold of it, and what it turned into after, and how big of a difference that makes, and how much extra value that honestly gives, because it gives you that that atmosphere and that richness that you expect from Intellivision Homebrew nowadays in 2024, 2025. Justin, before we go, is there any last thing you want to plug? Anywhere people can reach you or see your stuff, whether it be Intellivision related or not?
I just would recommend everybody check out Police Avenue Redux. Like I said, it's insanely fun. I played some say Sora Gadlat Thur. I love that game. I played through it twice in a row, but I needed a break after that. But I just still have never gotten tired of Police Avenue.
It is genuinely completely different every time.
It's one of those games where you can get like super pissed off when you wind up in a situation, but it's still,
and you're gassed, and there's a bomb here, and
you wind up with 3 enemies attacking you at once. Or just the same, when you wind up in a situation, you're actually able to get out of that and still kill the witch, or it's just win or lose. It's always just so satisfying. And I've always just, every time I play it, it's just a matter of when I run out of free time. It's never just throwing controllers or anything like that.
I have a question for you. Have you tried using the Hypno Disc on the Mortal Spear?
No, I I forgot about that.
The Mortal Spear becomes like the owl and joins your side.
Cool.
So you don't have to carry it. It's just there.
Is it more powerful than the owl?
No, it gives you a +3.
Oh,
it's a +3, and then if you got the owl as well, that's a +6.
Okay.
And then definitely, if you want a good laugh, take the bomb up to the witch battle.
Yeah, for sure.
Luke is going to reach out to you. I know that has to mean some cool new games coming.
Thanks for coming, Luke.
So
appreciate it.
We're all looking forward to that, Luke. We know Intellivision because we're old people and love games.
Yep. And one thing I will say on that, also about back to the Evercade, if you are wanting those Intellivision carts for the Evercade, I would probably get those sooner than later. And it's only because now that Atari owns Intellivision, I really don't know how much longer Evercade will have a license, just like how the Atari collection games, they no longer were able to make those in cart form because of licenses expiring. So, and then really just to finish off, I appreciate you coming on. I mean, this was great. Because again, we've had a lot of programmers on the show, talking about stuff, and it was just great to have someone who's just, the graphic side of it. Because kind of like you said, everyone has a skill set that as a team makes these games great. I mean, you can have an amazing programmer, but if they don't know how to make graphics or music, it's probably might not be a very good game. Not all, not to say every situation's like that, but you go with the strong points, and you get the best folks in there to make it an amazing product. And it was just great to see this angle of the discussion when it comes to homebrew games, and appreciate you coming on to do that.
Absolutely. And with that, I think we've had a great show. Thank you, Justin, for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Wanted to let you guys know for next week, if things go as we discussed, things could change, but we kind of talking about the Atari 7800 Plus next week. Is that something that we might want to
We've done an episode on the 7800 Plus, but I think there's a lot of talk like this is gonna be the year of Atari. Like we could talk about Atari
in general.
I think would be
Okay. All
good
right.
one.
All right.
Yeah.
I must have misread the Discord. But anyway, appreciate you guys being here. Thank you so much for tuning in. And Justin, thanks again for being on the show. So with that, you guys have an awesome day. We'll see you next time on Retro Bliss Rewind.
Yep. See you guys.
Yeah.